Hey folks, Jeff here. It's another beautiful day out in the woods. Wind's blowing a little bit this morning. Guess that ought to keep it a little bit cooler, although the weather's still calling for, I think, 98 degrees today. Anyway, today's project is working on a tractor. You know, I said the other day that's one of the things I got to get done, so here we are. Time to get to work. So we're going to start out working on this bucket cylinder. So basically it attaches up there, comes down and hooks to the bucket, and that's what gives you the ability to curl your bucket up and down. So what do we got to do to make this happen? I think we can fix it right on the machine because that's how we did the other one last time. The biggest challenge is getting this collar off. These glands, collars, whatever you call them, are always rusted on there pretty good. So there's a ring inside here that kind of locks it in. That's oil on there. I sprayed some WD-40 gel type on the other day to see if that would help to loosen it up. It didn't. We're still gonna have to put some heat to it. So basically we'll heat this up and then put a big wrench on and twist this thing, get that wire to feed out, and that'll allow us to pull that collar. Once the collar's pulled, then we should be able to pull the whole cylinder rod and everything. Of course, we'll have to take off these connections and everything. So that's what we're gonna do. Stick with us, let's see how it goes. All right, so the first task was to remove the roll pins from these, and the one in the back down there, I had to change the angle because it's sitting on the bucket and that was in the way. I couldn't get a punch on it to hit it out with a hammer, so I had to change the angle, and you can see from starting this thing up, the hydraulic fluid is just draining out. I mean, the seals are totally gone on that thing, and I've got it draining into a pan down there, but that's why we gotta fix this thing. All right, so we got our roll pins out. Before we pull the pin here, we want to be able to hold the cylinder steady so we can try to roll this collar, and we've got to heat it up. You don't want your rod fully extended, because if you fully extend your rod when you do this, your piston will be right down here, and then when you heat this up, it'll melt everything on the piston. You don't really want to do that, so make sure your piston is at least retracted halfway. So it's probably up in here somewhere, so that it keeps the heat off of that. I'm using a number 8 Rosebud and propane. So we're using a propane instead of acetylene because it's much cheaper. With the oxygen, it burns plenty hot. We heat the cylinder, try not to heat the collar, because when you heat, the heat causes expansion. So we want the cylinder to expand, not necessarily the collar. see if that's got it hot enough to turn this baby. So I got this big wrench I slap on there. And there it's turning. We just gotta turn it enough so that the wire keeper starts coming out. Bang it. Always better if you got two people to do this. It cools down so fast. I got one turn on it and then it cooled down to where it locked up again. Alright, so we had to heat it again and drive it out with a chisel, just pounding it little by little and getting it to move. So we got the collar out and you can see how mucked up that thing is. I mean, it's covered with rust, and of course some of the stuff there is burnt. And it's got a melted seal on it too, but I'd rather just clean one than have to clean the piston on the inside too to get all the melted rubber off of it. So we're good. Next thing, I just let it cool for a bit, and when it's cool, then I'll pull it apart and start cleaning it up and getting it ready to reassemble. Simple as pie, right? So remember, this down here is all rusted and pitted from the way it's manufactured here, with this opening for the spring allows to, or the retainer wire, it allows water to get in there, and so it's, you know, a bit rusted and pitted. So I'm just taking a wire wheel and cleaning it up. And then of course I'll put anti-seize when I put it back together and try to put grease into the joint to keep water out, make it stay better for the future. As I've said before, I look at that as a design flaw. Well folks, I've been working on this tractor for what feels like days. I don't know, 3-4 days. And so far, old Murphy just been showing up and everything been going wrong. It's just been 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. So it just fighting me all the way. Let me show you. So finally I took this cylinder and I pulled it. And my plan was, I can't get this collar to go back in, so the seals are so tight on it, it just don't want to go in, so I need to press it in. Tapping it with a hammer or whatever ain't working, and if I keep trying to do it with a hammer, I'm just going to tear it up. So I've got to press it in. The problem is I don't have a big press, so this is one of the reasons why I'm building a big shop, so I get all my tools set up in there. And things like a big press are stuff that are on my list to add, you know. I got a little press, but it won't fit this big old cylinder. So I had a plan. I pulled this off, and I was going to use my mini excavator and use the hydraulics to press it in there. Unfortunately, I went up to start the mini excavator and it won't start. And there ain't no reason for it not to start. I mean, that's a good excavator. It usually runs great. It turns over. But I noticed my electronic display is not lighting up at all. So, of course, the first thing I suspect is that over the winter, because it's been sitting a while, over the winter a damn mouse has got in there and chewed up some wire in somewhere, and that's why it won't start. So now I gotta get inside that thing and see if I can find out where that thing got and if we got damage. And if that ain't it, I'm gonna have to troubleshoot it down and figure it out. And so this is how country life goes. You know, you get to working on something and it just leads you to another job. So now in order to fix that, I gotta get this little excavator going, and now I gotta fix it. So it don't never end, folks. It don't never end. Well, I've been searching everywhere, and here I am in the back of the cab, and I see some wires that have been chewed on. So I can see some bare metal on the one on the right there, so they've got through the insulation on them wires. So I guess I need to check that out and see if that's a problem. I've checked the fuses, I've checked all the other locations. This is the first place I've found that actually looks like a problem, so let's see. I pulled that first bundle up and it looked okay from up above, but when I pulled it up, there's two wires right there that is completely chewed off, and I don't even see the other end to them. So that very well could be our problem. Of course, that set down there we know is chewed through too, so damn mouse got in here, chewed up some wiring. So now the challenge is getting to it. I think I got to pull the seat out and everything to get in there to be able to do any work. Always something, but we'll get her. Ain't no quit here. Well, I pulled the second bundle up and it's worse than the first one. You can see all them wires are plumb chewed through. So definitely there's our problem. At least we found it. So that's step one, identify the problem. So we done her. Now we got some work to do. We do a lot of problem solving out here in the country, and problem solving 101 says step one, identify the problem. We did that. We found the wires that was chewed up. We just started at the back of the machine and looked around, worked our way to the front. Of course, had we have started at the front, we'd have found it a lot faster, but that's the way it goes. So we had a mouse that got inside the cab and you know, found some wires to chew on. That's what mice do, and chewed through a bunch of wires. So that's our electrical problem that's preventing us from starting the machine. So the first thing we got to do is pull the seat out to get that out of our way. Here's a look from the outside. So the wires are in the back corner behind that seat. So I just pulled out 4 Allen head screws that were holding that seat in there. So now hopefully I can lift that seat right out of there. Let's see. Well, it's loose. It's coming. Just maybe got to be a little bit of a puzzle to get it to fit out right. Yeah, it can't never be just simple. There we go. All right, so we got the seat out. Throw it out of the way over here. Whew, that was fun. And of course, did I mention it's hot out here as well? Yeah, Texas. All right, so now we can see behind the seat. I ain't never pulled this out of here, and it's a mess back there anyway, so I don't know, maybe I'll clean this up a little bit while I'm back here. Anyway, we lifted them wires up. They're back there on the side, but now we should have enough room to effectively get to the wires and take them apart, clean it up, and rewire everything. So that's where we're at. Stick with us. Let's see how it goes. All right, so I said step 1, identify the problem. Step 2, develop courses of action, or a course of action in this case. So my course of action is simple. Remove the seat so I can fit in there and get to the wires, and then fix them. Here's an example of another job going sideways. So I started just by taking out the seat to get to some wiring. As I pulled the wiring out, well, it's all pretty simple except 2 wires. 2 wires were chewed up really bad, and I can find one end of the wires, but I've been unable to find what they connected to. I just kept tearing more and more stuff out. I've got the air conditioner venting ripped out because it looked like the wires went that direction, but there's no wiring there. They're not heavy gauge wires, and they're color coded, so they're easy to identify if you can find them. But for the life of me, I don't know where they went. So, not sure what to do there. Of course, you know, it's hot. And it's even hotter inside this machine. I opened the front window there, but it's still hot, man. This sun is just beating down, and when you're sweating like crazy, it just makes everything that much harder. So at a minimum, this wasn't a mouse. This was like a rat or something. It's too big. Them turds are too big to be mouse turds. So it is either a big pack rat or something like that. You know, is bigger. Anyway, he chewed up a bunch of wires and made a mess in here, bringing sticks and stuff in, building a nest. So probably bring the shop vac over and try to vacuum all that crap out of there, just to clean it up a little bit. I mean, at one point I do need to replace all the evaporator and everything for the air conditioner and try to get this air conditioning going again, but right now I just wanted to get this thing running so I could use it for a second. So, you know, from what should have been a few minutes, start this thing up, press my cylinder together, turned into all day. I've been working on this thing all day long, and I'm about wore out, so I ain't gonna finish it today. Looks like I'll be back in here tomorrow morning and probably just, aside from cleaning it up, just put them wires all back together except the 2 I can't identify, tape them off and leave them hanging out in case I figure it out. Hopefully it'll run without them two wires connected. We'll see what happens. You know, in reality, this is why we're so good at problem solving, because we got problems all the time.